It's the state of the dungeon! It's a video that Rob does about his games. Yeah! Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another State of the Dungeon address. I am your game master for the evening, Rob, and here for the game that took place on October 8th, 2020. Now, much like 2020, the story for this particular campaign has kind of gone sideways in a big way. The group is currently wanted for murder in several places of the world because of their activities that took place in a very public fashion, ripping the arms off of an Interpol agent and causing a great deal of damage. And their party had recently unmasked to demonstrate to the world who they were. That's proving problematic. And then on their escape out of London, which, they succeeded at, they actually got burned by their employer/handler, who just attempted to deny them all his assets and blow them up. They prevented this, and they're still alive, but their boss thinks they're dead, which is good. The rest of the world is hunting them, however, which is kind of bad, and because of the nature of the internet and international media, they're kind of known, which is not made any easier because one of their numbers, Muscles, is 10 feet tall and absolutely massively built, one of the most well-developed people in the world. So, to deal with this, they took the agent, who they ripped the arms off of, who turns out that she is an ace. She's got incredible levels of personal charisma and ability, and she basically has been guiding them, despite the fact she has no arms, and helping them to stay hidden and keep the things that they need just to keep going. So their idea was they went to Albany to try to get her medical help. It was in New York, and Albany has a place with lots of fine doctors and everything, so they crashed in on a unsuspecting doctor and got her some very, very emergency help with plenty of blood that she needed in transfusions, and then they took off from that spot. They went under the direction of Ms. Victoria Murphy to a CIA dead house, cut off from everything, off the books, no reason to have any visitors that she knew of, where they pick up the session. Now, they talked amongst each other about different things that they could do. Their lives were going to be hopelessly entangled for those that had revealed their identities. They're pretty well known and with fairly obvious means of identifying them. But for the others, there were some possibilities of going out and getting basic supplies, which they were able to do from the small town of Stranding that's near to where the cabin they were in was. Then they did some discussion and had a lot of ideas. Eventually they crashed because they were exhausted. Sentinel watched over them. There was nothing that happened, however, and then when everyone else woke up, Sentinel was able to rest. They got to talk a little bit to Victoria and try to understand their situation. They asked her questions, and she was forthcoming with information. A lot of the questions really revolved around how screwed they were right now, because their former boss, Lord Warbridge, who she just refers to as Clayton, they're still not sure if that's his last name or his first name, by the way, they know that he has the ability to see what's going to happen, and she has the ability to see what he's looking at and to block out certain bits of information. It's all she can do right now, to block out any mention of herself and the group. So they have a little crack of a step up on Clayton and none at all on the various government agencies that are hunting them. They don't have much for direction. So Victoria has an idea for them about what they can do going forward. But first, they need a place where they can develop their skills with a certain amount of privacy. So she pulls on one of her strings, having them send out a brief cryptic text to a random phone number. And fairly soon they get put into contact with Agent Lance Devereaux, who is a CIA agent used to dealing with people who are completely off the books, and very familiar with their new benefactor. She helps them and him to ensconce them in a bunker, which was off the books. It was a nuclear fallout bunker for high-level government people that was scrubbed after a time and taken off the books. The budget was diverted somewhere else or something like that, but it wasn't important. The fact was, this was an undeveloped property that nobody had any reason to come and visit, and only members in very, very high echelons even knew it existed in case they ever wanted to develop it. So in this case meant that, this was a place that they could go in a certain amount of privacy, and it had underground facilities that they could continue their training and live under the radar. So they took their U-Haul out to the location that she gave them with a couple of basic supplies and $5,000 cash that was secreted in the house that she gave to them. And they went to the site. Originally, the only thing they found on the location that they gave her was on top of a hill. There was an 8-foot by 8-foot metal, basically a shed with a large security door and a security device, checking to see if the door gets open. They tried to bypass it. Well, sort of. They took the cover off to look at the mechanism and didn't really try to bypass it before Muscles got really bored and just punched a hole through the door with his finger and opened it. Before this, Ghost had gone into the ground trying to find out where the signal went to. She found a central transceiver box, found out that it was powered by solar panels around, so it really didn't need maintenance or to be hooked up to any exterior feed. But she didn't find out the intention of where that signal was going to. So she comes back, the door's already been breached, they go down a long spiral staircase that she had already sussed out as she had gone into the ground in astral form. And behind this sealed door, she knew that there was a large open space, but it was dark, she couldn't see in there. So they get defeated by the big sealed door. Of course, Muscles wanted to rip it open, the others are like, hey, this is not cool, just going around ripping down things just because you can. You need to have a purpose for the ripping, and just randomly destroying things isn't good. They rationed out that, or they reasoned that this blind door, which no apparent way of opening it, must be a security or back door. That there must be another way that they could get in. And they looked around and they found, certainly, that there was an exterior door. The large armored garage door with an overhang. It was camouflaged. And there was another door they could access to the interior. So they took that way. And they found out that it is a big, empty bunker. It has a few things that would have made this place livable and would have been, a decent enough hideaway for people to eke out a fairly long time. A large storeroom, sleeping facilities, kitchen and dining area, an infirmary, and a large open hall with the various air circulators and water waste circulators and power generator. But most of it wasn't hooked up properly and was just brought there and not installed, so they went about doing as best they could. Fortunately, though, Victoria was able to come in, and with her knowledge, she's very smart, she was able to help them out with hooking up the essentials for their power to the water pumps and filtration, so that they'd have running water at the very least. And a couple days later, Devereaux promised to bring them more supplies, fueling the diesel tanks that could bring the power generator to life, which could be done off-site, conveniently enough. They also have now, the resources that they needed. Some generators to power lighting. They have a supply of food, some minimal bedding, and after 2 days, more was brought. What was left? Training montage. They all got to spend those copious amounts of precious character points that they had. And they did. They all went off in different directions, increasing their different skills and abilities. For instance, all of a sudden, with nothing more that he wanted then to be incredibly intelligent and well-learned. Turns out that Bulwark has the gift of heightened intelligence with all of this, and expanded his mind in that direction. So he is now one of the smartest men on the planet, and is an expert medic at the same time, considering his past experiences that he's had. And all of them developed their various skills. Rook got very good with his communication skills, and now he can do lots of things, interfacing directly with computers and reading and writing to them. Not just communication equipment, now he's diversified. He can do all kinds of things with various electronic devices. Sentinel slipped out of the time stream. He has the ability to actually enter super speed, which will give him more actions and abilities. The power drain could be impressive, but still, it's a solid ability that he has. Muscles got stronger. Oh dear, yes. But he also got a paralyzing spit to work with his chemical spit, so now he can actually lock people down without having to break them into fragile little pieces. Could prove useful in the future, certainly. So all of them developed in certain ways, and when they come to face the upcoming challenges, those skills might come in very, very handy. Then Victoria let them know about their next mission she was giving to them, something that they could do. Basically, there's a political terrorist who is a gifted, and he has threatened that he will destroy the Hoover Dam, causing lots and lots of ecological damage, possible loss of life, obviously massive damage to the infrastructure of the area, and his demands are mostly about racial and income inequality. Turns out that the young man, Ezekiel Daniel, is, he's had a hard life, and all of a sudden he's got superpowers. He has the ability to cause earthquakes and fissures in the earth. And he can also apply that to concrete structures like dams, as it turns out. So he's posing a very, very clear and credible threat to a world waking up to the fact that there are superheroes who can do this. How Victoria knows about this is because, her husband, Clayton, had been looking through his book and found that this guy would be an excellent playing piece for him to gain influence over the American president, Trump. And so he wants to capture the guy and give him to Trump on a silver platter, which makes him look like he's in control and a good distraction in times of all the chaos of the coronavirus and all the other things that are going on in the world. Well, the group's goal is, with just a little bit of a head start, to be able to go nab him out from underneath the Alpha team, the new group of gifted that Warbridge has on his side, that he's going to be using to execute his plans. If they can do that, it might cause Clayton to second guess how good his book is working anymore, and know that there are other forces beyond just what he knows is coming. And if the group is really canny, they might not even leave any clues that they're still alive, because if that's the case, and they get caught on camera or demonstrate in some other irrefutable way that they are alive, they're immediately going to have to drop everything, and they're going to have to go and try to save the families of Psyghost and Bulwark, who are currently in the protective custody of Clayton, the crime boss. They're not happy about that, and they want to get them free, but as of right now, the moment they do that is the moment they tip the hand that they are alive, and they will start going into a confrontation status with Warbridge. So it's a trying time, but they're about to set off in a container ship and fly to Colorado to attempt to deal with this particular menace. They'll have just as much information as she was able to glean from what Clayton scanned in his book. And while Bulwark was attempting to dabble into prosthetics to try to get Victoria arms that she's able to use, she's clearly in no shape to be able to help them. So they're going to be leaving her behind and going off on this mission. So will they succeed? Who knows? Will they be able to talk Shaker, Mr. Daniels, down and maybe get him as an ally? Possibly. So we'll see next time. So thank you, true believers. Until next time, farewell.